Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lights Out podcast. I'm Lucy,
I'm Chris.
I'm Mel.
and we're a brand new podcast talking about all things Formula One, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. It's Lights Out, and away we are. So, we're just going to do little introductions just to tell you guys, our listeners, about each other so you can get to know us ahead of the season. I'm going to start. I'm Lucy. I'm from Oxfordshire, and I got into F1 when I was really young. I think I was maybe 7 or 8. I was super young. It was right when Lewis started his career. I have very nostalgic memories of the Chrome McLaren era, the chain intro, and just sitting as a family together watching Formula One, just all like squished up on one sofa together. So race weekends are really special for me.
That's so lovely, Lucy. That's like such a nice way to get into Formula One. I think it's nice when you see those stories that are kind of generational, where families start
Yeah,
and they kind of pass the tradition along. So I'll go
yeah,
next.
yeah.
I'm Mel. I am from Manchester and Cumbria in the UK. I got into Formula One only a year ago now, off a whim, lying in my best friend's living room when I was trying to go to sleep. Put something random on, and here we are a year later, and it's the only thing I think about, it's the only thing I talk about, and I love the sport so much. I've learnt so much, and it's a great community, so that's how I got here.
Well, I guess I'm next. I'm Chris. I'm the American of the group, the internal rookie, the Fernando Alonso, if you will. I'm a huge sports fan. I actually have a degree in sports, so I'll be bringing the business and American consumer side to our lovely podcast here. I got into Formula One during the pandemic from DTS, like a lot of y'all. My ex put on the show because we had watched literally every sport thing under the sun, and we binge watched the thing in like a day, 2 days maybe. During the pandemic, I got to watch them do the bubble races where, it was a small season. And even though my ex and I are no longer together, I am so addicted to the room. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to yap with these amazing women that I get to call friends.
Oh, you are so sweet.
Oh, you're the cutest. So we're just going to go ahead and start off with a little quick fire game, just on the 2025 liveries, lids, and race suits. I'm going to start off with my favorite livery. I have to say, don't at me, but it is the McLaren. I know it's exactly the same, but do you know what I say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They won the
Okay, yeah,
championship
fair.
with it. They won the
I'm not mad.
championship with it. It's
I'm
like,
not
and
mad.
I agreed with what Zach said. He said, "We won the champion with it. Why do we need to change it? It took them 26 years to win the constructors, so maybe it was a good luck car." Um,
Maybe
yeah,
a lucky livery,
my
maybe.
a lucky livery. I love that. I love that. My favorite lid. I guess I'm a bit biased because I've always been a Lewis girly from the first time I ever started watching Formula One, but his lid is my favorite. I love that he went back to yellow from when he had it during his karting days, and it's kind of like paying a homage to that. Um, so I just thought that was the cutest thing, and it's just really, really sweet. My favorite race suit is it's got to be Ferrari. We've gone with the deep red. It's just the most beautiful color, and it's so like clean. The guys wear it so well. That's all I have to say. Like it literally is just stunning.
Toto was wrong when he said that Lewis wouldn't look good in red. I'll tell you that much for
That
free.
Super wrong.
everybody looks good in red, especially if you're Lewis Hamilton, the king of fashion.
Well, what did Seb say? Even if you are not a Ferrari fan,
You're a
everybody is
Ferrari
a
fan.
Ferrari fan.
Absolutely.
My favourite livery was the V carb. I
Knew you were going to say
absolutely
that.
love
Yes.
everything, and I think I've been
It's
very vocal
stunning.
on threads and everywhere about this livery. I think that it's so what they needed. It's very fresh, it's very new,
Yes.
and my favourite detail is that blue gradient into the white, and they use the
With the
tiny
balls.
little racing bulls. Oh my goodness,
Yes.
so clever, so cute. Absolutely loved it. I think it's a really nice livery, and I think it kind of represents their drivers in a nice way in their pairing because it's very fresh. So yeah, my favorite livery was definitely the V carb. My favorite helmet is going to be Lando's. Actually, I battered between Lewis and Lando, But the reason I chose Lando is because I find that these days people don't really stick to their helmet designs. We get it for a year, they change
Yes,
it. But back in the day, a driver's helmet was very iconic and very centered to them. And I guess, yes, that's because we didn't necessarily have the technology to be able to be cranking out loads and loads and loads of helmets. But
100%.
people remember people for their helmets. Like
Hmm.
if you were to
Like,
show like the most basic fan a Senna helmet, they're going to know it's Senna's helmet because
Yeah.
it's iconic.
Hmm.
Exactly. So I was like, at the end of the season, I was like, I remember thinking, like, it's kind of a shame that we're going to lose this helmet next year.
yeah,
And I'm really glad that not only did he bring it back, but he tweaked it really, really small. Like he's
it's
got
like
the four
it's
silver stripes and
updated.
the smiley
Yeah,
faces
yeah.
and the tracks that he won on in the blob. So I really like his helmet, and I think it's nice that he kept it from last year. And to be honest, I kind of hope he makes it his thing like Valentino Rossi has the Illuminous
Yeah.
green. I hope that he gets like he keeps his helmet and the fluoro. So that's what I would say. My favorite suit is the V Carbs, actually. V Carb really won me over this season. They are doing very, very well in my books.
As
That
they
lime
should.
green stripe
Hmm.
is the perfect thing because I thought last year that the Cash App branding looked off. It's almost like the HP logo on the Ferrari. It just stood out because it was weird and nothing tied it in. And I really like that this year they took that green piping to tie it all together. And the white, the way that they've done the white, predominantly white and not blue, it ties in with the livery. So I think when they're in the cars, I think it looks good too. So yeah, those are my top choices.
I
I
definitely
love
have to
that.
say Lando's lid was like a real close second for me. I was really torn between which one to choose because, like you said, it is so iconic and the little detailing that's been put into that, like it is really special.
I've been calling the car livery and the suits the Ghost Rider suits because they're all
Yes.
white. I've really been very impressed with this rollout from them. Well, I guess it's my turn. So my
Yes.
favorite livery is going to be actually Sauber. I'm really
Yes.
in love with this green, and I know they don't really have a huge title sponsor besides just Sauber, but I think the lack of it is kind of nice. I do
It's
love the
quite clean, isn't
Ferrari.
it?
It's clean, and I do love Ferrari. I think the red is beautiful. I mean, I literally custom made my lipstick and eyeliner to match today, but I do think the HP logo does throw it off. It kind of gives HP Care Bear in the middle of their tummies. And I just think it's something a little bit overdone where Sauber is just so clean. And the pictures I've seen coming from them on track look so quick. So I'm really excited to kind of see it zip around the tracks in that lime green. Um, I have three favorite lids because I'm extra. Obviously, Lewis. I'm in love with the yellow. I do love, as Lucy was saying, how he threw it back not only to karting, but every year he starts at a new team, he does wear a yellow helmet. I am a little sad to not see the rainbow that he's been wearing the last several years. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
because of the FIA rulings or if that's a new Ferrari thing. But one of the reasons that I really love Lewis beyond all the other reasons was the fact that he was a very vocal and proud ally, and the loss of the rainbow really does kind of cut a little bit deep for me. Call me
Yeah.
dramatic if you want, but that was a very iconic thing for me, and it was nice to see my community be shown in places where it's illegal to be queer. My other favorite was Zhou Guan Yu. I think his helmet is gorgeous, and I
It's
don't think he's
stunning.
it's stunning, and he's actually had a history of having stunning lids. He is probably one of my favorite reserve drivers, and I'm so glad he's still on the track this year with us. So
Agreed.
really excited
Yeah.
to see more of him. And then Pierre Gasly, I'm a sucker for blue eyes surrounded by blue. And I think his helmet, while is pretty much the same from last year and a little bit more basic maybe than some of the others, I do think that he's done a really great job of shaping the helmet to fit his facial structure, which is something we don't see a lot from drivers. Taking into account like their own looks and then shaping it around them. Really think he did a great job of using that blue to really bring the focus into his eyes. So those are my three favorite lids. My favorite race suits are V-carb. I'm just really loving the white.
Yes.
I think that the one-legged white is really giving FloJo. It's really giving Asia Wilson. I really love this like one-legged color situation I've got going on. It just brings something new and fresh that you don't really get to see. And I'm really loving that
Right.
teams are starting to become more interested in the fashion of it and fashion and functionality of their race suits. Yes, they need to be
Everyone
functional.
say thank you, Lewis, for bringing the style. Well,
Seriously,
obviously there
seriously.
was some style icons before him. Let's not
Yes.
forget Schumacher and a few
Oh,
others,
the
but
ultimate diva.
The
the ultimate
ultimate
diva.
diva. I do think that V-carb is really helping that idea of functional fashion when it comes to their race suits.
I hope I can insert this when it comes to editing, but I don't know if you guys have seen, I feel like I sent it to you. Yuki in that full blue, like, tracksuit bomber jacket. I was
This,
like, when I seen it, I was like, I need it. Red Bull isn't really in the fashion space like that.
yeah, I
It's
was
really
really
cool to see them
shocked.
branching out and doing something different themselves. It's like I'm really enjoying this kind of rebrand we're having from VCarb visually anyway.
Yeah,
I
it was
do.
really impressive. I had to double take because I was like, is he wearing his own clothes? Like I didn't expect that from them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not me like slandering them because I
No
think they're
shade, no shade.
fantastic. But like I just genuinely I hope that this is like their new kind of rebranding or something because it is really amazing.
I mean, I'll even agree. I'll even kind of throw Ferrari out there too. I had the Ferrari Fall Winter 2025 fashion show put on my feed today, and you can definitely tell that they're being a little
There's
bit
a
more
real
adventurous,
upgrade.
real
Yeah.
upgrade. And I think it does have to do with the fact that Lewis is going to be their ambassador when it's all said and done.
I think he's had probably quite a bit of input on making that, like, because it suits him so much. So I think it's really been made around the drivers.
And I've also seen a lot of diversity in the people that
Yes,
are modeling Ferrari as well. I see, like,
Hmm.
when
incredible.
one of you guys sent in the picture of the duffel bag, I was like, oh, it's nice to see a black girl with her curls out modeling this duffel
Yes,
bag. And
Hmm.
whilst I don't think that necessarily it's not that Ferrari haven't been inclusive before, but I'm definitely seeing a forefront
it's
of it
more
now.
noticeable now, isn't it?
Like
Hmm.
his is it his press Lewis's press officer, I think it is,
Yes.
that they've hired. She is a black woman. Her fashion is stunning, rocking red braids with the red oh my goodness me, I seen it the
What a
other day and I
queen.
was like,
What a
you are
queen.
such an icon, so
Queen.
so iconic.
And it must be really like nice as well for like people. Obviously, I can't speak for you guys, but I even feel like really proud because growing up watching Formula One, there was never anything like that in this sport, and it was so noticeable. So to see it now, even I'm really like impressed, and like it should have happened sooner, but I'm so glad that now it really is showing. And Lewis has done so much work to make this happen and to make sure that people are included, and it means that these little girls that are now, because we know like females are starting to watch, well, not starting to, but females are now watching Formula One, and little girls like me are going to grow up watching that, and girls of all skin tones, they'll get to grow up and see people of the same skin tone
People that
in
look like them. It's
yeah, people
Hmm.
that
so
look
nice
like
to
them,
see.
and it really
Hmm.
makes them feel special, and that's something that we have to hand Lewis's flowers for that, you know.
Reminds me of that
100%.
Kenzo Craigie, that the little boy that's going through karting at the minute. Really really quick, but it's nice to see, like, he talks a lot about how Lewis is his inspiration and being able to see someone like him and thinking that he could do that
Yeah,
too. Like, that is why it's
yeah,
important for sports
yeah,
and everywhere to
Hmm.
be inclusive and to make diversity and inclusion at the forefront of their businesses, because when you see someone like you, it makes you think that you can do that too. I think that's really
100%.
important for the future generations that are coming into Formula One to know that this sport isn't just for one demographic of people, that everybody can do it. If you are the best, you are the best, and it doesn't matter where you come
yeah,
from or what you look like. You are the best and
yeah.
you can do this.
I mean, little antidote. I went home for my mom's 50th birthday this weekend, and my next door neighbor has a son. His name is Caden. He's 12. And I got talking to their parents about Formula One because I haven't seen them in a minute, and his ears merely perked up. He's like, "Oh, you're into Formula One? So am I. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are my favorite racers. I want to be a Formula One driver." And he's a little black boy
Oh,
in the
Oh,
States.
that
I
is
Most
the
kids
love
want to
most
that.
be
beautiful thing.
most kids want to be a football player or a basketball player or a soccer player here in the States. So to hear a kid who's 12 saying, I want to be like Lewis Hamilton. What can you do to help me? How
Oh,
can you help me? And for my wheels to start turning, being like, one, not only is that cool as hell that he is already being like, that's what I want to do. Two, apparently he's quick as hell in cars. His parents already taken him to
wow.
go karting. But three, for us that even have the ability where Carlos Sainz and Lando and Lewis, I'm sure Sebastian's got something, have these charities where these kids could actually possibly do something like this, you probably wouldn't
It makes
see.
it accessible.
Yeah, you wouldn't see this 20 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
the story of Lewis Hamilton's dad, Mr. Anthony Hamilton, working 3 jobs to put his kids through
Yeah.
karting and betting on his son because the bank refused to give him what was a $10,000 loan for Lewis's career. So he said, screw it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to happen anymore because so many of these guys are putting DEI at the forefront of their missions and the forefront of their charities, and it's creating dividends for them because from an American perspective, that is very important for us over here. It may not be important to our government, but it's very important to us over here. And people, especially Black people, will spend their dollars where they see themselves. So big up to Lewis. Round of applause to him. And a sincere and heartfelt thank you for not only myself and the little Black girl I was, but for all those Black kids out there who are getting a chance to watch this.
Moving on to the next topic, we're just going to talk about predictions and driver pairings for the season ahead. 2024 ended with Max Verstappen winning his 4th consecutive World Championship.
We saw that in person.
We did.
We saw that in person, which was incredible.
If we have some pictures, I will put them up on the screen. We saw that in person, and it was lovely. Sorry, continue, Lizzie.
No, that atmosphere was amazing. It was a real nice thing to see. Lando finished in 2nd place and Charles finished in 3rd place. We then saw McLaren winning their 9th World Constructors' Championship for the first time in 26 years. I mean,
that was a beautiful win, and I actually got to see that one in person too.
And Mel got to see that in person, so
that was beautiful.
Not jealous of you at all.
Yeah, and Lewis's last overtake for Mercedes right in front of me. Yeah. Real tears were cried that day. It was beautiful.
And then Ferrari finished in 2nd place and Red Bull in 3rd. We've each made our own predictions for the season ahead, and we haven't discussed this beforehand, so we're just gonna roll them out and see what everyone says. I'm interested to see how we've all gone. Personally, I think for the Drivers' Championship, I think that Lando is going to win. And as much as I would love for it to be Lewis, and if I'd be happy with whoever wins, I really think from how we saw in 2024 and how he really only started realizing that he could do it potentially in kind of the second half. So if they had really nailed down their strategy and the fight from the beginning, there would have been a much tighter fight. So I think that they're going into 2025 with that belief and that real fight of, okay, we saw what happened last year. This is what we need to do differently. And I really think as he said, he's going in there with his elbows out. He's going in there. And I've really noticed in interviews recently, he's had this massive switch of like, he believes in himself and he knows.
Very positive.
He knows his capability, and you can see he's smiling from ear to ear. And it's really nice to see that. And he said himself, he won't say it if he doesn't believe it. And, he's very aware of not saying things in interviews that he doesn't feel himself. He's honest. And so it's nice to see him say, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot, So that's who I think is going to win the Drivers' Championship. For the Constructors, Ferrari. It's got to be Ferrari. I think their strategy is going to be key. We all know what Ferrari are like with their strategies. They've got to nail it down. If they don't make as many mistakes as they have done in previous seasons and just mess things up, and they've got to be careful, If I think with Lewis coming in, he's very strategy heavy and he has to make sure he has everything to a T. So if he does his magic and make sure that the team knows and they're all running from the the same chat sheet, then we'll see some serious improvements from them. And I think they really could. If they're working right, they can do it. And I really would love to see that.
Agreed.
I like the way you think. I like the way you think. But you know what? I was torn. I was really torn between 3 drivers for the Drivers' Championship. But then
Let's hear 'em, girl.
today, I found out that Drake put a $20 million bet on
Yes.
Lando to win the Drivers' Championship. And I was like,
Oh,
he
he's
is
fucked.
cursed. He
He's
is
fucked.
cursed. Yeah. I was like, I seen it and I was like, do you know what, Drake? Well done. Like, do you know what? Like, he's all, like sticking your nose where you don't belong. Leave our sport alone. Leave our drivers alone. We don't need a curse. We have just got over the curse of Monaco with Leclerc. Like,
Right?
we just got
Truly.
over it. We don't need
Facts.
anything else. And here you come putting bets on our drivers like anybody asked you to. So Lando, unfortunately, is out for me. And then I don't
That's
think
totally
Red
fair.
Bull will be in the fight for
Okay.
the Drivers' Championship this year.
Yeah.
And I was very much torn between Charles and Lewis. But
Agreed.
when I really thought about it, right, if it comes down to team orders this year, I think that Ferrari would be very, very stupid to not prioritize Lewis for the Drivers' Championship.
Absolutely.
It would make Ferrari probably billions of dollars if
Yeah.
Lewis was to win his 8th in his first year
In his
with
first
Ferrari.
season with Ferrari.
I think that Charles would also understand because Charles has a lot more time. Whilst I don't think he would be happy about it, absolutely not. I do think that Charles would understand it would mean better for him in 26 because at the end of the day, Formula One runs on money. And if you win, you make more money. So I feel like if you really think, if Charles really deeped it, because he is the longevity of Ferrari, if we really think about it, he has the opportunity to go for many more world titles, whereas Lewis, he will be in his final years soon enough. I also do think that on a performance basis, I haven't seen Lewis this happy in a long time. And whilst I've only been watching for a year, I have gone back and I have watched, like, that man was depressed in Mercedes. He was depressed. Coming out the car and he's like, I don't qualify well, I don't race well, the car's slow. Like when someone's like, oh, what would you change about the car? Everything.
Everything.
Like,
he really got disheartened and it was so noticeable towards the end, and especially like seeing him from the beginning of Mercedes, watching like it was a slow burn in the worst way. Like it went from glory to absolute, like you said, depression, and it was just, it was heartbreaking. And towards the end I was like, as much as it was really, for me, I was really torn about how I felt in him moving, but at one stage it got to a point where I was like, look, I just want him to leave it because he was becoming so disheartened, and it was really hard to see that.
It was like watching your friend be in an abusive relationship and you couldn't do anything to help them.
yep,
Right.
literally. Just watching them suffer through. I think it was, I think I think it was the best outcome for Lewis because if he had stayed, he would have retired. So I'm glad he's gone to Ferrari. But the one thing I've noticed about Lewis in that Ferrari is it does what he wants it to do. Like I watched him during testing and like watching him on track, the car turns, and I watched someone even comparing him fighting with the Mercedes and driving the Ferrari, and it was very reminiscent of before the ground effect era and how he put the nose in and the nose went where he wanted. So I think that he's energized, he's hungry for that 8th. I think that when Lewis is excited and he's hungry and a car is doing what he wants, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Game, yeah.
I really do.
100%.
So that's who I think is going to win the Drivers' Championship. And as for the constructors, I think that Ferrari is going to win. I think that whilst Charles is going to want to solidify himself as the number one driver for the future of Ferrari, I think that they both will understand and recognise what it will mean to Ferrari for them to win the Constructors' Championship. Now that Carlos has left, as much as I love Carlos wasn't driving for Ferrari anymore. Carlos was driving for Carlos, and we all know that the kind of consensus and environment in Ferrari is even though you're a Ferrari driver, you don't drive for yourself, you drive for Ferrari. And I think that in the pairing they've got this year, that they've got two people that want to drive for Ferrari. And Lewis has made it very known he wanted to drive for Ferrari. He didn't want to be Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari. So I think that they're going to fight each other hard, but I think it will be fair. And I think they will work together to bring the constructors home because it's been like, what? God knows how many years. They really need this one.
Too long.
I think they'll do it.
Too long.
16 years.
Woo!
16 years.
Well, Mel kind of took the words out of my mouth, but I'm going to reiterate. I do think it's going to be a toss up between the Ferrari boys. As Mel has mentioned, Lewis looks hungry, but also I want us to also recognize he's probably the healthiest we've ever seen him since probably 2016.
Yes.
Like, I joined Formula One in 2020, so I kind of saw the beginning of George Russell and him and Valtteri Bottas leaving him, and then Angela leaving him, and being a whole shakeup. And you could see the fight leaving his eyes. You could see him going off and doing a lot of other things, going to the Met Gala multiple times, going and hanging out with his friends in around the world. And it was very much almost as if racing was becoming a secondary hobby for him almost. It was still his job, but you could tell his heart wasn't in it anymore. And you can see that he's fallen back in love with it. And so I do think that his elbows and his claws are going to be out. But I do think that Charles Leclerc cannot be discounted. I think he's
Oh,
also
absolutely.
hungry.
Yeah.
I think he's also hungry. I think he's a little furious with Ferrari. Charles Leclerc is the only one standing after dealing with Matteo Binotto, and I think that deserves a little bit of props. I also think Charles is a little frustrated that he has not been given the proper car, the proper strategy, the proper people, and I think now that Fred
100%.
Vassar has the entire team under his direction now over the last couple of years. He's not had that ability. He's had to deal with getting rid of those people. He's had to find the right people. He's had to find the
Yeah.
right pieces. I think that they have the money, the pieces, the drivers,
The
all
puzzle
ducks in a
is
line.
now complete.
The
It's
puzzles
all
are
come
complete.
together. Yeah.
That everybody, their drivers' personal lives are together. Everything, the stars are aligning. So I really think it's going to be a fight to the finish between those two. But I think it's going to be
Yeah,
respectful. I think it's going to be very much like
for
Valtteri
sure.
and Lewis, before George Russell came in. It was very respectful, very loving. They were good to each other. And I think that's what's going to happen for Ferrari. So I'm saying it's going to be Lewis, but I think it's going to be a super close fight. Our constructors, I think it's going to be Ferrari. I agree with everybody here that they are pretty much ready to go. And Lewis coming in and Charles being there and kind of being their predestined means that the engineering team and the strategy team has to get their butts together and get it in gear.
Right.
We know their strategy calls are never great, but I do think that now that they've gotten rid of Yaxi for Charles, and they have, I'm not sure who Lewis's engineer is going to be this year, but now that they've kind of gotten all the pieces together, as I mentioned earlier, I do think that engineering has been told, get it together or get out.
You saw it last year, didn't you? Like, the encouragement for Charles when he was driving over the radio was beautiful. It was like
Yes.
his engineer knew what he needed. Instead of we're checking every 5 minutes, he gave him information.
Yeah.
If he didn't have it,
Yep.
he delivered it in a way that Charles would understand. Or like when he
Yep.
needed support, he was like, "You're doing a great job." And it's
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
and we
That's
saw the
really
uptick
important.
in his
Mm-hmm.
performance. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that is down to the way his race engineer was communicating with him, because
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't
Yeah.
driving angry all the time because his team wasn't listening to him or not
Yeah.
giving him the information that he needed.
Agreed. That goes from top down, right? So I think that Ferrari's going to have it all together, but I don't think it's going to be an easy fight. McLaren is out for blood. They
Oh,
want they want
absolutely.
they want the
Yeah.
championship of driver and constructor. So they're going to be out for blood.
They got a taste for it, and now
They
they're like,
did.
we have to keep this up. So
They
they are
did.
seriously going to be a force to be reckoned with.
And we can't count out Max Verstappen and the Red Bulls. I mean, we don't know what Leah Lawson's going to bring to the
Yeah.
table, but we can't count out Max Verstappen and the Red Bulls. And they still had Adrian Newey, I think, for this car. So you can't count out the Newey rocket ship. So I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a very close fight to the finish between the three top contenders. It'll be Ferrari to win the constructors, but it's going to be a close fight between them, Red Bull, and McLaren.
A little honourable mention that I've not heard anyone on social media talking about. Oscar Piastri. I think
Yes.
everybody is discounting this boy.
Vic.
His first issue was qualifying. He qualified better. His second issue was tyre management. Yes, last year, I don't think I heard anything negative about Oscar Piastri's tyre management. He was a tyre whisperer last year. And one thing about Oscar,
100%.
anything that he can't do next year, you know damn well he's going to come back and he's
He's
going
going
to
to
do
fix it.
10 times better. And this is
Yeah.
why I don't think McLaren are going to win the constructors, because I think that McLaren are going to end up taking points out of each other, because
Yeah. They
Oscar
need to figure
wants to
out
win,
who's their
and
like protege, because
like they don't have a number one. And also, like, we have to remember Oscar is he's a champion driver. Like,
Yeah,
what did he do? He won F2 consecutively.
yeah,
Like, he's one of those drivers that, like, he is out to win. He doesn't want anything
yeah,
less than winning. And I think we could end up seeing maybe some, like, papaya rules kind of things
yeah.
this year.
So people tend to discount him because he's
Hmm.
new, but like think about what he achieved in his first couple of seasons, 23
Hmm.
and 24. Like
You can't
it's
discount
mega.
him. Like,
Do
he's
you know what I
had his
mean?
first win in his first, like, what, couple of years. Like, we've got to
Yeah,
be serious about this boy. He is so quick, and let's be
He's quick.
realistic, the gap from him to Lando isn't that big, as
it's
big
not
as it
that
should be
different.
for
Yeah.
someone that's only been
Mm-mm.
in the sport for such a short amount of time.
Hmm.
So
I've been a fan of Oscar since Alpine Gate. Like, I thought that was hilarious. And I think a lot of people discount him because he's so quiet. He's kind of got that Kimi Raikkonen-esque, like, straight face where he doesn't really, like, give you too much to work with. Whatever is going on behind the straight PR face, you're never going to see. So I think a lot of people kind of write him off. But I do think Oscar Piastri could be our dark horse. So we
A
definitely need to
hundred
come back
percent.
in a couple of weeks and see kind of where he falls in the first couple of races, because I think the first couple of races when we get back is going to really be a good indicator of what's happening.
And we're going to be tracking the points throughout the season, the constructors and the drivers, just to see where we're at, how things are going. They'll be in the episodes and on our social medias. So definitely follow those and you'll be able to keep track. Let's talk about 2025. We thought we'd do a little recap ahead of the season, ahead of Australia, just so that, it's been a long break. It's been a very long break, right? So we just want to make sure that, everything's fresh in our minds, all the changes, because there's been quite a few things that are different now. First of all, obviously the most prominent thing, we've got new driver lineups. We've got 5 rookies joining the grid, and Liam Lawson, our non-rookie rookie, if you will. Obviously, he's done multiple races for Red Bull and when it was AlphaTauri. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. We have Kimi Antonelli with Mercedes, and he's driving with George Russell. We've got Gabriel Bortolesso for Kick Sauber with Hulkenberg. We have Isaac Hajar at VCARB with Yuki Tsunoda. We have Jack Doohan at Alpine with Pierre Gasly. And Ollie Behrman at Haas with Esteban Ocon. It is just McLaren and Aston Martin that are keeping their lineup for the season. So with all those rookies on the grid, it is going to be very, very different this season. We
oh, it's
might
gonna be a
see
spicy one.
some wild things, I think.
Red flags
Crashes
all around,
galore.
and they're not Ferrari. Let me tell you that one.
Yeah, right.
Last year we did not have enough red flags. I think this year we'll say there was not enough racing.
Too many.
For
Yeah,
real. Safety
for
car.
real.
Hopefully Burt Mylander is prepared to drive a lot this year. He might be the 21st car on the track because he's going to do a lot of laps. Turn
Okay, so let's go around and just speak about who out of all the rookies is one that we are going to be keeping a close eye on and who we're rooting for. I'm going to start with Gabriel Bortolesso. That guy is a force to be reckoned with, and he is seriously going to be. I know he's driving, one of the cars that are on. He's on the lower end of the grid. Let's not lie about it. However, as a driver, I just don't think the car is gonna. It's gonna mean that he's not gonna be up there. Do you know what I mean? He was a F3 and an F2 champ in 2023 and 2024 in successive years. I mean that
Very
alone is
impressive.
enough, and he's that is only following the likes of Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and Oscar Piastri. So that
All
is
great drivers.
some name drops,
Mm-hmm.
he's only the fourth one to do it. So if that
Very
doesn't,
impressive.
if that's not a portfolio, I don't know what to tell you. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really gonna keep my eye out on him. But I really would like Ollie Behrman to do well. I think I have met him and he was so lovely, really humble, and just an all-round great guy. And I really would like to see him do really well.
You have a bit of a soft spot for Ollie Behrman, don't you?
I
Bless
do
you.
have a bit of a soft spot for him. He's so sweet. Yeah, I will say that.
He is cute as the bear. Um,
The bear. That's
the
so
bear.
that's
It's the bear and
so
the
cute.
star. I can't
The
stop.
bear.
I can't stop doing it.
Stop. Stop. Because you know what I hear when you say the stop, and it makes me giggle every time. And I'm gonna say it wrong one of these days, and I'm gonna get called out for it. So you need to stop.
The
Sure.
stop lives forever. It will never
Okay.
die.
So, Mel, who is the rookie that you're going to be keeping an eye on this season?
Well, you guys know last year I did actually watch a lot of F2.
You did.
Yes.
I did keep a very big eye on a lot of the drivers. And I had my opinions from very early on in the season. I really, really enjoyed the likes of people like Paul Aaron. I thought he was great. I thought Gabriel was great. But I think that because Gabriel won the championship, that nobody actually remembers who controlled most of the season, and it was Isaac
Right.
Hadjar. Isaac
Yes.
Hadjar was leading the championship before the summer break by 36 points. Like
Yeah.
Wow.
that's quite a margin. The
It's
only
a lot.
reason he lost out was because of mechanical issues and and safety car issues.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
it was really sad
Agreed.
because it went down to the wire in Abu Dhabi. I watched that race, and it was just so unbelievably unfortunate. He drove his heart out, but there was literally just nothing he could do.
It was out of his
Um,
hands, wasn't it?
it really was
Mm.
out of his hands, and I think that had things gone even just the slightest bit different, I think that everybody would be saying that Isaac is the one to watch.
Yeah.
Now
I
I
for me,
do.
definitely I was torn between the two. I mean, obviously I'm still going to keep an eye because I know what that guy can do, and he is 100% going to be showing his skill and his talent. So, yeah, I
I really
agree.
think he will. I think the only thing he'll have to overcome in order to do that is he's going to have to. Isaac Hadjar is a very fiery boy. One thing that I like about
Yeah.
Gabriel Bortoleto is that he's very
He's
level-headed.
so relaxed.
Mhm.
He's got kind of like a Senna-esque kind of vibe about him that, like, whilst things might be
Yeah.
frustrating, it's like we go back to the drawing board and try again. So I do like appreciate that about Gabby, but then I also think that I kind of like it seeing people like Isaac on the radio. I like seeing their passion because to me it shows that they care about their racecraft and they want
Yeah.
to do well.
Mhm.
I think that whilst, yes, sometimes there is a level where it is too much and you have to tone it down and be respectful to your team and your engineers. I think that if he can kind of keep that passion whilst also keeping it respectful, that Isaac could be really, really one to be reckoned with. And the VCARB isn't
Agreed.
slow. So I think we
Yeah,
could
no.
actually see him doing really well this season. So that's who I've got my
I
eye
I'm
on.
I'm smelling some podiums. I reckon.
Mhm.
I
I
think
could see
at
it.
least
Mhm.
at least the one.
He's got some
Mhm.
So
incredible racecraft, incredible racecraft. Like if you watch him drive, he is locked in. He's really, really great. I think he's
Mhm.
brilliant.
he's
Brilliant.
brilliant. So Chris.
So, so I'm not gonna lie. I really don't know our rookies coming up as well as I should, but I'm very impressed with Isaac. I just he gives me Max Verstappen vibes.
I
He
Mm-hmm.
like
gives
that.
me
I like
he
that.
Yes.
gives me early Mad Max Verstappen vibes.
100%.
And
Absolutely
I
agree.
think that that is something the sport needs right now. Obviously, Max has
Yeah.
mellowed out quite a bit in the last few years, which we all love. We love our cutesy little Max right now. But I do think that we
Right.
are missing a little bit of that fiery passion. And I think him paired with Yuki Tsunoda is going to be such a fun team to watch.
It's
Just
such a
because
fun pairing.
it's a fun pairing. They remind me very much of like the 90s teams where they're off the cuff. They're a little
Yeah.
bit rugged. They're diamonds in the rough. They have not been pressed and polished. They're not Ferrari, right? They're not pressed. They're not
And they're
polished.
just fun. They're just having
They're
fun. And
just
it's
fun and they're not expecting too much. Yes, the V-carb is faster than last year. Yes, they've got some more money coming in, but let's be real. They're not a top team, right? Not yet at
yeah.
least. So I think it's going to be really fun for us to see race craft from Isaac. I also think that Ollie Behrman, I'm really rooting for him. I thought he was
Yeah.
wicked fast when he subbed in for Carlos in the Ferrari. And I just think that again,
Absolutely.
I have a soft spot. I think him and Kimi Antonelli have soft spots for because they are basically my brother's age. And I can't believe they're
Oh.
putting children because I still consider my
Yeah.
brother a child. But I can't believe they're putting young guys in these cars. But I'm really excited for both him and Kimmy to really get a chance to shine and do their thing. And I'm really excited, hopefully, for Oliver to get some really good mentorship from Esteban. I think that he gets a bad rap, but I think he's going to be a really good mentor from him and somebody who doesn't really come from money, who will kind of help Oliver just kind of ease in and really just kind of keep level headed and humble. So I'm really excited to kind of watch all of our rookies, honestly,
Yeah.
do their thing this year. But my two are definitely going to be Isaac and Oliver.
And with all these new driver pairings, it could really shake the grid up massively. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in Australia, because I think that's
Mhm.
really going to be our benchmark for how the season's going to go. And obviously, things are always changing throughout the season, but it will really give us an idea of where everyone's actually at. Let's move into what's new in F1 and talk about the new additions of different rules, the rules that have been taken away. As we know, everything, there's always things being announced all the time, and it can be really tricky for everyone to keep up. So
The
we're going to have a
FIA never
regular,
sleeps.
right.
Never.
So we're going to have a regular segment just updating everyone on a couple of new bits that have happened in case it's been missed. Um, and we'll be following the teams individually to keep keep a close eye on the
Mm.
updates. First off, Monaco, the FIA have announced the two pit stop rule with two minimum tyre compounds. I mean, let's just say strategy is going to be crucial in that race. I don't know if this is putting a plaster
On a
over
bullet hole.
a
Do you know
bigger
what?
mess.
I really thought about this. I feel like they should have waited till 26 for this rule. And do you know why?
I agree.
Because we don't know if the cars in 26 are going to be small enough to overtake in Monaco. And
Thank you.
if
Right.
they are,
If they
it will
are,
make sense
then
to have a rule like this. Because
yeah,
if you can overtake, then the overcut and the undercut, then they become important again. But like if you can't overtake, like if you're going to run a race with a minimum strategy, Bernie Collins was saying the other day, like if you run a race with a strategy like that, like what's to stop like two back markers pitting in the
they're going to
first two
pit
laps
within the first couple
and then
laps.
going long for the rest of the race
Yeah.
and then winning
Yeah.
the race. And I think it means that people that deserve the win will lose out. And
This
that's
is
not to
what I
say that
was, yeah,
anybody that wins is undeserving because they've gone long, because at the end of the day, if they make the strategy work, they do.
yeah,
But I think if somebody's controlling the race and then they have to stop for their mandatory pit stop, and basically someone just cuts through because they stopped early at the beginning, I feel like
right.
it defeats the purpose. But if you wait
I
until
think
26, we've got cars that are small enough to overtake, then that strategy becomes important again, and then that will make for great racing.
I agree. I
Hmm.
think that they're enforcing this rule to make it more interesting, but I think it's gonna make it messy. I
Hmm.
really don't think, like we said, it's gonna mean that teams are gonna pit really early, and then after if they all do that, then they're all gonna go long, and then there's still gonna be no overtaking. So
Right.
it's not
Or
really
what
gonna
if they do it in
fix
a safety
it.
car? So what if
Right.
they go
Yeah,
do one lap, pit on a safety car, and then do one lap under the safety car and pit again? You've got two
yeah,
cheap pit stops, and you can go long for the rest of the race. I just
Right.
don't.
yeah.
Right now, it doesn't make sense unless they
So
do like what they did in, I think it was Qatar,
Hmm.
when Pirelli were having tire issues with curbs, and they
Hmm.
yes,
introduced like a maximum stint of like 18 laps.
the
I think it
18 lap
was.
rule.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, like if we came up with like something like that, and it's like, okay, well, if you change your tires, you have to do like a minimum of, let's say, 5 laps, 8 laps, whatever, then that would make it more fair. But as of right now, it's kind of left open to interpretation.
I think
Agree.
they really need to enforce a solid, like, how like a kind of like a blueprint of, okay, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, because
Hmm.
I personally don't think that this is really going to work.
No.
It's like we said, it's a temporary fix for a bigger mess, and they really should wait, because like you said, 2026, the smaller cars, they could potentially be small enough, and then
Hmm.
that will fix the issue, and
Right.
then they'll be able to overtake, and it will be an interesting race. So yeah, I just, yeah,
But
I'm unsure about this one.
but don't at me. But who says Monaco has to be interesting? You know what I mean?
Right, but
Like,
it has been interesting in the past. There have been special moments. We had
yes.
Charles winning his home race and
Right.
breaking a long curse. And
But
we've
was there a
had
ton of overtakes in that race? No. So like we all know that Monaco is their glitz and glamour celebrity race. Let
it
it be a
is,
glitz and glamour celebrity
but
race. Let it be a quote unquote
why?
boring race.
A very
I
good
think
point.
that
Yeah,
Monaco is beautiful, and for me,
It
I've always
is.
said that when
it's
we wanted to
stunning.
organize a race, that I wanted to try for 26 when we've got
Mm-hmm.
better racing.
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
I don't see, like, you see people charging like thousands and thousands of pounds for
Yes.
hotel rooms to see the track.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
realistically, like, Monaco is when people always say, oh, you just watch cars drive around in a circle, like, that is literally what Monaco is. There
Yes.
isn't actually
Yes.
great racing.
Yes.
Like, yes, we get those beautiful moments, like Charles winning his home race. That was great, good strategy, like, perfect. We're happy about that. But for me, if you're going to be charging those premium prices, because let's
You've
be
got to have the
realistic,
race to go with
Monaco,
it,
you've
right?
got to have the racing to go with it. Like, everyone complains about Vegas, but at least Vegas we get decent overtakes and you get to watch some stuff. Like, if you're
Right.
going to be
Like
paying those
last year
premium prices,
we had
yes,
the most
Mm-hmm.
overtakes. It
like,
was like a
so many
hundred and
overtakes, that
Mm-hmm.
makes that money
yeah.
worth it. So for
No,
me,
I
I'm like,
agree.
I think it's like, yeah, I guess it's like Monaco, like, and I don't think we should get rid of it off the calendar. I don't,
Absolutely
because I
No,
not.
think
no.
it's what makes it's the crown jewel of Formula
It
One. Let's be
is, as much
realistic.
as it is just glitz and glamour, that is like
It's the
the
MSG.
exciting part of the season. Like everyone
Yeah.
gets so excited. There's
Everyone gets
such a
excited for
buzz.
Monaco.
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't take it
On
off when
that
Charles
note,
Leclerc's still running. I mean, you can't take the Monaco
No,
race from the Monegasque. I mean, I'm sorry, that would be
no.
cruel and unusual. But what I was saying is that I would try to agree with you, like saying like putting this bandit on a bullet hole right now is stupid because we all know that this race is boring. We know it's predictable because of qualifying. Leave it be
Mhm.
for this year. We don't want a two
Right.
stopper because it makes no sense. It's going to be boring and it's going to be a mess. And honestly, this is asking for more crashing and more deviousness than it's
This
going to
is
be
what I
worth.
mean. I really think it's going to cause a
It's
lot
going to
of
cause,
chaos.
and to be honest, the rookies, I'm worried about the rookies. Like, yes, do they, I
Yeah.
don't know, do they run this race in F2? Do they run this race in F2?
Yes, no,
I can't
yes.
recall. I'm not sure if they
I can't
do.
recall, but
I feel.
either way, it's a
Mm,
bigger car, it's a faster car, and those walls are tight. Because I played this race on sim multiple times, and I have crashed into a wall every single time, especially off that hairpin coming up to the starting line. So I think it's just going to be quite a mess. And I don't know if the FIA is really thinking about safety. I think they're thinking about entertainment. And I don't know if this is really the best call for Monaco. I agree with Mel. I think they should have waited until the cars were potentially smaller and giving
Yeah.
all of us fans one more year just to kind of be able to honestly just look at the picturesque ass, city and enjoy Charles
Yeah.
Leclerc winning Monaco again this year.
Yeah. So
I
on the
love the
note of
manifestation.
manifest it, girl. So on the subject of Monaco, if you were in control and you were told you get to decide where shall we replace a track, you can pick anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
Ooh, who wants to go first?
So
Lucy,
I
go ahead.
personally, I think Cape Town would be incredible.
Ding,
Ah!
ding,
I
ding.
fear we
Ding,
haven't
ding,
Ding,
ding.
discussed.
ding.
I feel we haven't discussed this, so we might all have the same answer. But I, we need the representation in Africa, and what better place to do it than Cape Town? It is incredibly beautiful. It's a stunning place, and the atmosphere of people when you go there is just next to none. And it would be like I really feel like it would be kind of like a Brazil vibes of a race. So I think it would be a perfect. Obviously, we want Monaco on the calendar, but if we could have Cape Town, I feel that I would quite happily sacrifice it for a race in Africa.
Mm.
I've literally got the same thing. Like, Africa, I think
Wow.
that, like, for me, because I know that Rwanda also have proposed that they want
Mm-hmm.
to build a
Yes,
track.
I'm
I
so
think that
here for
would
that.
also be great because that builds so many freaking jobs, like, so many jobs. I think that would be
Mm-hmm.
great. It's great for tourism. But I also know that South Africa already has the Kyalami track, which means that
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to put as much money into it to make it
it's
work.
it's already there.
Building a
You
new
just got to
track
implement it.
is a lot
Yeah.
of money, isn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a track that we've raced on before, like,
Mm,
years and years and years ago.
yeah.
So I think that would be good. But I also think that in all of the fanfare of Formula One, we know how much money it brings. And I think personally, it would be really, really nice to see. Really, let's be realistic. It would be nice to see all of the countries that have stolen from Africa give back to it in a way like this.
Woo!
Because
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be 110% honest. Like,
Speak on
a
it.
lot of lithium batteries are used in Formula One
Mm.
cars,
Yeah.
but the way that lithium batteries are made, it's stolen from resources from Congo, which is actually where my family are from. So
Right.
if you are going to steal those resources, why don't you take that and put it right back into the community in which you took it from? And it's not just going to be good for the country that we race in. It's good for the entirety of Africa. It brings people to the continent. It makes people travel through the continent. And that is bringing tourism. It brings money and it helps to build up a part of the world that really needs it, because Africa is one of the richest continents in the world, yet it's the poorest, which
Right.
absolutely is ridiculous to me. So if you're going to take from it, I think you have to do your due diligence and give back to it, because Formula One actually it wouldn't exist if it didn't have the technology that comes from Africa, or the raw materials that
Ding,
come from
ding,
Africa.
ding.
And yeah, that's what I'm gonna say on that one.
Ding, 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 ding.
That is, yeah, I really agree with that.
Can y'all tell why we're all best? We're all really good best friends and we're all Formula One besties. We all share a freaking brain cell. I was saying Cape Town or Joburg for a lot of the
Ooh,
same, for a
I
lot of the
love
same
Yeah.
Johannesburg.
reasons that Mel said, but also I think it would just really help introduce a whole generation and continent of kids who didn't even think Formula One was an option. It gives kids an option to even
Right.
consider, not even just racing, but like mechanical engineering, working as a PR officer, working in media for them. Like it gives kids an opportunity in that continent and in those countries to see people who are like them. I mean, Lewis Hamilton, his press officer, multiple other people in the different teams are black as well and brown as well, to
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh, wow, they look like me and they've got this cool job. How do I do that? How do I get there?
Yeah.
It
And then the
also helps with
resources are
tourism.
already in the continent for them
Yes.
to do those things.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes. And I think as Mel said, it's really important for not only the teams to give back, but also the fans, right? There would be no Formula One. There would be nothing for us to root for if these
Without
countries
the
weren't
fans.
giving up their resources. And I think it's just really important for, Africa in general, but South Africa to be able to host a race and be able to see some of their heroes come home. They had the
Yeah.
World Cup a couple years ago, and we saw both the help and the devastation the World Cup brought to them. So I think if they're able to host a race, even if it's for 5 to 10 years consistently, and make money off of not just the tourism of the race, but also people coming in and out and staying for longer, would really boost the country and hopefully give people an opportunity to see a different part of the world that they wouldn't
Right.
see. So yeah, I would definitely
Absolutely.
The
replace if
representation would be, yeah.
we had to replace Monaco, it should go to Africa.
And it's the
Agreed.
only continent, bar Antarctica, that we don't race in,
Yep.
Right. And
which I
it's got
think
to
is
change.
insane.
It's got to
Insane.
Insane.
Because
change. It's
we're not putting
2025.
them in Antarctica realistically, but we should have
No.
them in Africa.
Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
Race it around the polar bears.
Oh my god! Put some snow chains on it. Red Bull did that though, didn't they? They put snow
They
Yes.
chains
did.
on the Red
They
Bull.
did. They did. It
I
was
mean, it's
one of
possible.
Max's show cars. It was one of Max's show cars, and they put it in snow chains and fired that baby up.
I wonder how you'd even build that track.
Hope,
You just
prayers, and ice.
yeah, just build some snowmen to have be the corners and
Do you think they'd
yeah.
enable DRS? I don't think so.
Go sliding it off. You just see them falling off the glacier. Good luck.
With
Hope
the
you got
rookies, I think
wings.
it's the worst idea in the entire world. But hey, we can dream.
Yeah, we
We
can
can
dream.
dream. Yeah. So next up is the addition of the driver calling systems.
Hmm.
So for anybody that isn't aware of this or doesn't know what this means, if a race is forecast 31 degrees or above at any time during sprint or race, teams have the option to add this to the car as well as cooling vests, which are worn under the race suits. This is optional until 2026. From that point, it will be mandatory, and the FIA will notify the teams to fit it. With that, obviously, that adds extra weight to the car, so the weight limit will increase 5 kilograms to allow this.
Wow.
It's
That's a
hefty.
lot. That's a
It's
But they
hefty.
lot.
won't be allowed to use it as weight saving to be quicker, because they will
Yes.
have, if they
Mm-hmm.
decide to opt out, they will have to have a ballast of 500g apparently.
And that too. And the driver and car limit is also rising 2 kilograms from 798 kilograms to 800 kilograms.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, the changes have to be made, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is a really, really important addition to F1 because we got to talk about Qatar 2023. It was brutal. It was
Scary.
extreme and it was terrifying for
Mm-hmm.
us as viewers, but for the drivers to be sat in a car, you're barely even, I mean, they're going so fast, they can't really see things solidly anyway. You know, that it's just so fast, everything's going past them. But when you add on dizziness and blurred vision and low blood pressure, not
Fainting
only
in some cases.
you can't see,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Vomit.
you add that on top, it's not safe, and you're in
Mm-mm.
control of a high speed vehicle. It could cause severe accidents. And on the topic of that, Lance Stroll, in his post race interview, he said he was dizzy and passing out behind the wheel. That could have been detrimental, and not only to him, but other drivers could have got caught up in that. And who knows what could have happened if something went wrong. We had Esteban Ocon from lap 15 to 16 vomiting inside his helmet. These things shouldn't be happening. It's just not.
And
I
it's
can't
like,
even
like,
imagine.
what if he choked in that situation? Do you know
This
what
is
I
the
mean?
thing. Those
Like, he's
helmets are
wearing something.
built to,
He's got his balaclava on, and then his helmet. Like, the temperatures in the
yeah,
cockpit were at 50 degrees centigrade or
it's insanity.
122 Fahrenheit. That is absolutely insane to be driving that hot, like in an environment that hot, that fast.
That
People
long.
shouldn't be fainting for that long. Like,
For
fainting
that
in the
long,
car.
yeah.
Like, only what, a couple of years ago we seen the fatal crash, like the almost fatal crash from Grosjean.
It
Like
really could have been, yeah.
we like, these cars are, like, as much as we say, like, oh my goodness, like they've done this, they've done that, like they
Yeah.
are in
They're still
control of
dangerous.
such heavy machinery, and when they are going that fast and the concentration is slipping, or if they're, like, for instance, Logan Sargent had to retire from that race because he was
Yeah,
suffering from dehydration. So I think it's really important that the FIA have brought in something like
this
this,
is,
but not all of
yeah.
the drivers agree with it.
I just think, like, as much as obviously it's going to make a difference in race speed with the extra weight, you have to compromise because
Mm-hmm.
if you aren't up to your full standard, that's when mistakes happen. Not only mistakes, but if your blood pressure's dropping, your vision goes, your hearing
Mm-hmm.
goes, and your senses go as well in terms of like your
Mm-hmm.
reflexes. And we all know they've got to have sharp reflexes. And if your reflexes go,
You're gonna
you're
do a
not
Lance
in
Stroll into the
you're
back
not
of
in
Daniel
control,
Ricciardo.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not in control of the car, and
Yep.
it's not safe. So as much as they might not be happy about it, I'm all for it. I
Yeah.
really think that it's a long time coming because there's
Mm-hmm.
no reason why the drivers should be suffering. I mean, so many of them had to get medical attention. We saw them lying on the floor just after the race because they were so
Mm-hmm.
drained from everything, and it's just not. It's not what we want to be seeing. It's not
No.
nice, and
Yeah, like
it's
Alex
really
Albon stumbling down the pit lane, like getting out of
that
his
Mm-hmm.
was
car.
awful. That was
I
Like,
really
mean,
awful.
it's not a nice watch at all.
Oscar
It's really
laying
not
on
nice.
laying on the floor in the cool down room, just basically praying that he's going to cool down. Max even having to sit down. You know it's bad when Max Verstappen has to
When
sit
Max
his butt down.
when Max cuts out, that is how you know. That is how you know you've
It's a
you
problem.
know, made a difficult race.
Hmm. I also would want to bring up something that I saw that Esteban said on record, that the driver's cooling vest is actually not feasible at this point. So he said
Really?
that so him and a lot of drivers are complaining that basically this cooling vest is it's a high compression vest that's full of tubes, and it all comes together in a basically giant knot of tubes, and currently it's sitting
Yes,
on their
yeah.
hip. And he has said, and he has stated several other drivers are having an issue fitting into the cockpit. And they're not quite sure what they're going to do because you can't put it on their chest because that interrupts the harness system. You can't put it on their back because obviously that's pressed into the seat. And having it on their hip is actually causing a lot of pressure because, as we all know, those cockpits are designed to have them sit super tight, to sit super tight. So he's saying that as of right now, in its current form, it is actually not feasible for them to use, which I think is a concern as well, because
that is concerning.
We know climate change is a thing, and we all kind of have to recognize that Formula One is attributing to climate change. And, you know, if we're going to continue to race in places like Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, you know, Qatar, there's going to need to be a conversation about innovation. And while this innovation of the cooling vest is great, they do need to make sure that they go back to the drawing board and make this a tool that these guys can use. Because if they can't use it, they're not going to. And forcing them to use something that's not going to be comfortable or feasible for them is going to cause more injury is not going to be fair, especially to the younger rookies who are coming in. I mean, you can say what you want, but 2026, our 2025 rookies will only have been driving a full year. So I think, you know, it's going to be really interesting throughout this year to kind of see, A, how hot temperatures get, B, if the FIA decides to move the calendar around again to maybe see if they can put some of the hotter races in the beginning of the season when it's less hot, or C, if the innovation gets better. So, you know, it's definitely something that we'll hear at Lights Out Pod, keep an eye on, but you guys should keep an eye on it too.
I think one thing that I also noticed that Esteban said is that it's actually a safety thing, because when they have this, he called it like a tennis ball kind of thing, didn't he? And he said that the issue is, as well, is that whilst the cockpits are designed for them, when asked if they could cut into the cockpit, he said that no, it damages the flexibility. Therefore, I'm taking from that it probably damages the structural integrity. Are we then going to substitute safety in structural integrity for safety in driver conditions? So I think that there's going to have to be a very big conversation and a lot of innovation that happens in the next year for this to be something that drivers can use, because Esteban's already said that he doesn't mind using it, but it needs to be developed so it is usable. But we can't be sacrificing structural integrity for driving conditions. Either find a way to make the driving conditions better or innovate this cooling system better so it is more adaptable and more usable to all the teams.
We just got the survivor cells. The last thing we want to do is to start compromising their integrity. If we can't figure something out, I dare the FIA to take Qatar out. There's no reason for us to be racing in a place that has 120 degrees, a cockpit during the night. There's no reason. We have Singapore. There's no reason for it. You want another hot race, go back to Malaysia. But there's absolutely no reason for us to be going to Qatar and putting these guys through something, especially at the end of the season. They're already gassed. Take it out. If you can't figure it out, FIA, can't innovate it, get rid of it.
It's a very good point. That is a very good point, because it's not, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, if they can't figure out a technology that's not going to interfere with their comfort or with the car itself,
or the safety,
who knows what effect that would have. There's no reason that they need to be driving in conditions like that, because one of these races, I fear that something even worse could happen, and a driver is they're gonna pass. Touch wood. That they could pass out behind the wheel, and that car could seriously go anywhere when it's out of control. They are going at ridiculous speeds, and it's just not worth the risk. There's no reason to take it off after something happens.
No.
It's preventative, like it needs to be. It needs to be managed before it actually happens.
Formula One need to start making safety calls before the issues happen. Like, for instance, like the Halo, for instance. We all know that it's ugly. We know that it's ugly. But look at the lives it's saved. And if we could have really thought about it logically, we could have saved many lives before it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that when we start to see that there is a potential in the sport, it needs to be nipped in the bud before it becomes a bigger issue and we have an injury or, heaven forbid, another fatality on our hands. We need to be proactive with safety.
Ahead of the game.
I mean, let's be real. I would say about what 70% of the grid is alive because of the halo. Definitely
Joe
Max and
Guan
Lewis
Yu.
are alive.
I was
Joe,
just gonna say that.
I mean,
Joe Guan
Lewis
Yu
is
at
still
Silverstone.
Joe Grandwell for Joe for sure. Lewis, if that halo hadn't been there when Max ran over his head, Lewis would
Oh
be
my
dead. Let's
goodness,
just
I
be
don't
real
think.
here. Charles running into the walls, Carlos running into Sergio Perez. Like
Yeah.
a lot of these guys are alive and able to still race are because of the halo. And I would like for us to be able to innovate better so that we have 20 cars that go out and 20 cars come back in safely, and not in freaking pieces. Please, FIA, hear us.
Yeah. So another thing to note that is new for this season, we have the removal of the fastest lap point. Boo. Absolute
Tomatoes,
boo.
tomatoes, tomatoes.
I'm throwing tomatoes.
I really thought that that was a fun part of races, and I really enjoyed keeping an eye on who's putting out the fastest lap, and it was something extra, and just
It
it
was
was
so
something.
stupid to take it away. Like they should have
Yeah,
just extended it to the whole grid. Do you know like
yeah,
how like for instance like Sauber finishing with like no points? Like that is
Mm-hmm.
so demoralizing. Like extend it to the whole grid. Let us see some fights
yeah,
at the back of the
yeah,
grid for the fastest lap
Mm-hmm.
point. Like
yeah,
taking it away was not necessary. Instead of taking it away because the other teams were trying to take it away from the top constructors, why not give everybody a chance to go for the fastest lap instead?
yeah, yeah.
Right. Or if you're
Instead
gonna
of it
take
being
off,
the top 10.
right. Or if you're gonna take off fastest lap, then give us fastest pit stop.
Yeah, that
Ooh,
would be
like
actually a
DHL.
really, really fun addition. That would
Mm-hmm.
be, yeah, that's
And
a
nice to
really
see some
good,
competition in the pit lane too. That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But also,
yeah,
we all
I
know that
like
this
that.
is we all know this is just a snub towards Daniel Ricciardo because he sniped that fastest lap off of, I think it was what Lando or Oscar had it at that point, and made sure
I am
that
I am showing this to the camera. It is my bracelet. It's DR3, and it says
yes.
"fuck 'em all."
But
Beautiful.
I really do think that this was kind of I think this was probably in the making before Daniel. I think this has been probably an issue, and we don't know if the drivers have been complaining about this and the Grand Prix Drivers Association meetings. Who knows? But I do think this is a little bit suspect coming from the FIA with the removal of Daniel Ricciardo moving on after his beautiful flying lap that he got, was able to kind of gift that point back to Max in the championship fight. It's a little interesting that this is the year they decide to add this new ruling when, again, this is something else
Very
that
interesting.
could have just waited for 2026. I'm not quite sure why we're getting so many new rules this year when we have all new regulations coming next year. Y'all could let us rock for one more year. Could have let us rock for one more year.
Just
Is it
keep
an
it
FIA
until,
snub
yeah,
towards Red Bull and Christian Horner? Who knows?
Well,
interesting.
well, 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 well,
But
well.
I do think, I mean, obviously they've done it for, I guess, environmental reasons to stop people wasting tires because people, the ones that were at the top trying to get that extra point, they wanted to, pit when they didn't need to, just so that they could get that extra point towards their championship. And while it was great for them to gain those extra, that extra 1 point every race, it is really, it wasn't great for the environment to be, you know,
But it
putting
made great
tires on when
racing.
we
I'm
didn't need them.
sorry. I do. I
But
love the environment. I love the environment. But
but
like,
as we said,
but like, think about it this way. Like, the reason the championship went all the way to the wire was because Lando was last lap Lando every time and going for that fastest lap, and that is what
100%.
took it all the way down to the wire. Like, even though
Last
we
lap
all knew
Lando is insane.
I love that.
for real though, like it was always the last lap and he would pull it
Facts.
out the bag with these old ass tires, and it was like it took it down all the way to Vegas because of those fastest laps.
Because of
Lando
that,
knew
it
that
did.
he
It
had to
genuinely
get
did.
those fastest
Mhm.
laps to be able to continue the fight, and whilst we know it was kind of far-fetched, it gave us something to hope for. So now we only
Mhm.
have race points, and once that's gone, like there isn't something extra just to add to the racing, which I think kind of
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
It is a real shame because it did make it exciting and it was nice for the drivers to have that opportunity to get that point and have that kind of glory of like, well done for getting the fastest lap. You
Mhm.
know, it's I yeah, I'm unsure about whether that was necessary.
It
But
wasn't. Like I said, either give us
anyway,
fastest lap back or give us fastest pit stop. I'm not picky, FIA,
this.
but you
I'm not.
gotta
I'm
you
here for
gotta
this.
give
I'm
us
here for
give
this.
us something. Give us something because y'all
Yeah.
y'all are turning it into the NFL, the no fun league. Knock it off. Quit it. You're looking real
Stop.
American right now. Quit it.
Wow, that is no, that's funny. Chris.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. But
Okay, so next of what's new, we have the requirement of teams now have double runtime when they are running rookies who have raced in 2 or less races. So this means there will be 4 occasions where we have rookies on track during a race weekend on the free practice sessions.
I think that's
Thoughts?
great. I think it's so good,
I
especially
think
like
it's
with
great.
having this many rookies in this season as well, but
Absolutely.
especially with how there's been a long big conversation for the longest time about how F2 champions aren't getting their chance to shine in F1 because there isn't enough
Yes.
space. So I think it's great that not only have we got loads of rookies on the grid, but we're giving an opportunity for the rookies that are now coming up through F2 as well to show their talents, and hopefully we will start to see more rookies on the grid. Hopefully we'll
Yeah.
get like it will be kind of like the George Lando like effect where we get a couple of rookies in and then we get to see them shine. I would love to see Paul Aaron. I'm excited.
I
Hopefully he
really,
will get in the car. He's really, really quick. So I think it'll be really great for us to see not just the rookies that we have, but the potential rookies we might have on the grid in the next couple of years. I think this from the FIA is a great decision for
yes.
once.
Yes.
I agree. I think in terms of the rookies, like this rule makes it more accessible for them and they get
Mm-hmm.
to get on track, have a feel of it, and it also showcase their talent and show the teams, okay, so if something's not going right with your team drivers, I'm right here. And when you're ready for me, I'll be here. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what's really needed because, like you said, there's not that many seats. So
There's not.
when they've got drivers, they're going to keep them while they're happy with them. But then it's
Mm-hmm.
also really hard for them to find people that are the right fit. And if they have them in their car already, then it's like, okay, well, we tested
We know they
him.
perform, yeah.
He worked really
Mm-hmm.
well. He performed great against, some of the top drivers.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing addition, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to really shake things up. So I'm excited to see how that goes. And like you said, Paul Aaron, he deserves a shot. He really
Oh,
does.
I'm really gutted he wasn't on the grid this year. I am actually really sad about that. That kid is
Yeah.
Yeah.
so quick, lightning, and he's got such a level head on his shoulders. So I'm disappointed he's not in, but I'm completely and utterly convinced we will see him in an FP1 session this year.
Well, also, let's not
Absolutely.
forget, there's going to be quite a few drivers that are going to be on what I call notice this year, and their seats are definitely going to be in jeopardy. I'm not going to name them right now. I'm sure all of you and our listeners have your own
If you know,
ideas of
you
who it might
know.
be, but if you know, you know. But I do believe that there's going to be quite a shakeup in 26 for people being moved around the grid. And, Paul Aaron probably would get himself a seat. I'm also, listen, I know I'm a little crazy, but I would really love to see Arthur Leclerc in a seat at some point soon.
Oh,
Um, I would really love for us to possibly one day get a Leclerc type of vibe. I know it's pretty far fetched because we need Arthur to step it up a little bit more in where he's at and maybe put a little bit more elbows out. But I would really love for us to kind of start seeing a little bit more from people. I also would really love to see some women drivers. Okay, all right. I would love
retweet.
for us
Abby
to
Pulling,
see Abby
hello.
Pulling. I would like to see you, Abby. Come here, front and center.
Come
Dorian Pin,
here.
come and
Dorian
sit.
Pin,
Come
yes,
here.
yes.
I'll even say Racer Bianca. Come here, front and center, please. Come here. I would like to start seeing the Formula One
Tina
community,
Hausman.
particularly. Yes.
Yes.
I would love to start seeing the F1 community, particularly team principals, starting to take the F1 Academy and women racers a little bit more seriously and start helping them move up the ranks. Susie Wolf is doing a great job of helping them, and the F1 Academy is doing an incredible job but they can't get anywhere unless there are teams willing to buy in. And I understand that right now is really just a F4, F3 space, but it doesn't have to be.
Do you
And
know
I
what?
think
I've
it's
got something
really,
really interesting on that. Carry on.
yes, but I think it's going to be really important as we move into the end of the 2020s and into 2030 that we really start, as consumers and as fans, start holding these team principles and their feet to the fire about diversity and inclusion with women on the grid. And I was just mic drop.
I'm going to tell you something that I actually noticed. And when this happened, I was like, I need to talk about this, right? When I was in Abu Dhabi for the Grand Prix, as you know, F2 was running, and also so was Formula Academy. And one thing that I noticed that really, really ticked me off is all of the coverage of everything else was in English, and Formula Academy was covered in, I think, Arabic.
Right.
And now I think that,
Interesting.
yes, that is probably because of the country that we were in, and they probably don't take that type of motorsport seriously because it's women in the car. But one thing I thought was the FIA should be taking these women seriously and making sure that coverage is in English, because I was sat having my nice little beer, having a nice time, thinking that it was just like something like the Formula One movie on track, or people just doing hot laps. And then I hear Abby Pulling's name, and I was like, wait a minute. Formula One Academy is on track, and I had no idea because they didn't announce it that it was coming on track. We had no idea, and it was all in Arabic. And I think personally that is so wrong. Like
It's
I
wrong,
honestly, like,
yeah.
I don't care what country you're in. I don't care who's racing. Everybody, you are not helping making sport accessible to women. You are not making it prominent that it is happening if you are not reporting it in a language that most of the people are there speak. Because it
Right.
really upset me, because I was like, I got to go through the paddock. I met Bianca, I met Tina, I met like three of the girls. I got a t-shirt. One of the girls threw me a t-shirt, which is in my drawer and signed by two of the
That's
girls.
so lovely.
And it was great to meet the girls, but there just wasn't enough coverage whatsoever. It was like
Even if
I
they
was
had
going to seek it out.
subtitles, just so that you
Yeah.
could see what was being said.
Like, you were having to put the effort in to go and seek it out, when I've come here to watch cars on track. I don't care who's in the car. I just want to see cars on track. So you have a responsibility, not just as the venue, but as Formula One themselves and the FIA, to be making sure that these women are being given the space and the platform to do what they do best, so that they can move up the ranks and finally make it into Formula 2 and Formula 1. And that's what I have to say on that.
Well,
I'm actually, you know what? Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, I'm talking to you directly right now. I'm going to try and get myself to Abu Dhabi this year. And if Formula One Academy is not reported in English, oh my goodness, I'm going to be so disappointed. Give these women the platform that they deserve to show off their racecraft, because they are incredible. Abby Pulling, for instance, an incredible driver. And I didn't even get to see
incredible.
most of her race. I didn't get to see most of her race. And I was so disappointed. Do better.
And it's actually embarrassing. Like,
It is.
what are we doing? We're bringing
It's
women into
2025.
motorsport. We're bringing this in. We've got this amazing F1 Academy, these fantastic women drivers, and then you're not showcasing them. If I'm at a race and that's on, I want to know what's going on. You can't tell what's going on by looking at the video. You need to hear the commentary. There's absolutely no reason for it. There's no excuse.
Good
Whether that
commentary.
means
Good
you need to
commentary
have,
also.
yeah, also
Understandable
that.
commentary.
Yeah.
I don't want Danica
In
Patrick out here giving us, uneducated and really unnecessary commentary and telling us that women can't be in Formula One because we don't have the headspace and the competitiveness. Just go ahead and say you don't, babe. That's okay. We know, we know. But for the rest of the women who are out there and wanting to do this, give them their flowers and give them their props. Because let's remember, FIA, you guys approved Drive to Survive. You guys approved that. F1, you approved Drive to Survive. Who do you think was going to watch that? It's
Right.
not going to be the boys. It was going to be women.
It's for women, right?
It was a show for women. So you know what we want
Predominantly.
now? You know what we want now? We want representation. So go ahead and start giving us more women drivers. Because if you don't, the NWSL here in America, the National Women's Soccer League, and the WNBA, and unrivaled basketball, and now there's volleyball and hockey and American football for women here in the States. There's plenty of other women's sports. There's also plenty of motorsports, women in motorsports here in the States. We will go somewhere else and we'll take our money with us. And we are one of the biggest assets that you want. So it would behoove all of you, especially if you want to get into the American sports space, to start actually catering to women. And not just because the drivers are quote unquote attractive. Sorry, I
couldn't have said honestly everything. Couldn't
Can I just like tilt my mic this way, please?
Like, so, honestly, yes. Take the mic. But just a few other things just to cover on what's new quickly before we move on to the next and final topic, sadly. On the subject of women in motorsport, we have our first female engineer.
Yes!
Thank you, Haas. Thank you, Haas. Honestly.
Thank you, Haas. Thank you, Haas.
Round of applause for Haas. I couldn't be prouder to be in an era where they promoted a female to a race engineer position.
Mm-hmm. And they are the merit, not because she's a woman.
Right. Repeat that.
Made it very, very clear that they hired her because of what she does and not because she is a woman. He has sang her praises. He said that she's really hardworking and she's determined, and she shares lots of character traits with Esteban, and that they're going to really pair well together. It's nice to see team principals taking a stand and saying, no, we need more women in motorsport. So Haas, very well done to you. And I think it's very, very, very telling that the first team to bring in a first female race engineer is an American team, which very, very nicely, it trails on perfectly from what you just said, Chris.
Now, I do have a couple of bones to pick with Haas, because I do think they could be doing better when it comes to being America's team. Hire me and I can help you. Shameless plug, hire me and I can help you. But no, I'm super thrilled that the American team, that gets a lot of crap for being the American team, is the first team to bring a woman on board. And I'm so excited to hear her voice this season. I'm stoked, guys. I kind of want to get a jersey made of her. Like, Esteban and Oliver are cool, but like, let me get Laura's name on my back, because I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased with her being on track with Esteban.
And we can't go without mentioning Angela. Angela and Lewis, the duo is back.
Thank God! Oh, thank God, she's back! Oh, thank you, Lord! Thank you, Lord! Thank you, Lord! Thank you, Lord! Like, thank you, universe, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Like, thank you, Angela.
And
thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you for giving up your family time. Yeah, she looks thrilled. But thank you, Angela. Shout out to you for giving up your family time again and coming back and working with Lewis. We kind of all know that you left to kind of go spend time with your family, and I am thrilled that you are back. But I just want to say a deep felt thank you for coming back, because not only has Lewis missed you, not only has Roscoe missed you, we've missed you, girl. We've missed you. So welcome back. Welcome back, girlie. Welcome back.
And then finally, we've got Louis to Aston Martin. It's going to be interesting. I'm not sure how it's going to affect Red Bull. I think it could seriously affect them in a lot of ways.
Red Bull are going to drown. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's not beat around the bush. I think that there could be some serious changes in how everything goes at Red Bull, and I'm not entirely sure that they are going to do as well as they did last season because of this and a few other reasons. But
they're bleeding personnel for one.
Left, right, and center.
They are bleeding from a gunshot wound that they cannot fill quick enough. My goodness me.
Mm-hmm. But you know what?
They are hiring.
And we're not going to get too deep into it. But if you are part of the community, you've probably seen some new things come out from the Red Bull camp from people who have moved on from working within Red Bull and are moving on to other ventures. And I think it's very telling, the atmosphere of working for Red Bull and maybe why a lot of people are leaving. It also kind of maybe points to why Newey is leaving. I mean, let's not beat around a bush. Christian Horner and Helmut Marko are probably not the easiest men to work for. And I think that Nui maybe had a bit of a time trying to get them to listen to him and do as he asks. I mean, he is the god of engineering, but if you're not going to listen, you're not going to listen. And so I think that some of the things that we've learned this week might have also been a contributing fact to why Adrian has left. I'm also wondering if Fernando was also a big draw over at Aston Martin. I'm pretty sure Nui has worked with Fernando before. And, I love Fernando, but he is getting up there. Same with Lewis. But Fernando is getting up there. He's not going to be in Formula One forever. And I think Nui is really hoping to give him a really special car to work with in the next season or two.
Almost, yeah.
A goodbye, a proper goodbye car. As we've seen Fernando kind of languish in the midfield, unfortunately. I think Nui is really trying to look for something new. And I think Aston Martin kind of gave him, I don't even want to say a blank check. I think they gave him a blank chassis and said, do what you want. And really gave him something to work with, where I think Red Bull is really trying to just cut and paste. They had this.
They did say, yeah.
Okay. I mean, they've had this championship rocket ship for the last 4 or 5 years now, and not taking away from Max Verstappen's talent. He's a very talented race car driver, but you can't say that car wasn't a freaking rocket ship. So I think they're very used to
car that made it, definitely, along with obviously his talent.
It was a perfect match.
Pairing.
It was a perfect match. And I think Nui is a little bored, and I think he was looking for a challenge. And I think that Aston Martin is a perfect place for him.
He could certainly turn that team upside down in the best way. And I think we could really see some shocking things. Like,
I do.
They could really creep up the grid.
Well, they did say, didn't they, when there was talks between whether he would almost choose between Fernando and Lewis, that I think one of the draws for Newey was that Aston would give him free rein. Like, they call him the man who can see air. Do you know what I mean? And I think it got to the point at Red Bull where Christian Horner, I think, was going on a bit of a power trip and making sure that everybody knew that he was top dog. And I think in that sense, there was probably some sort of disconnect where Christian wanted things one way and Newey wanted them the other way. But when you're a team principal and the designer of the car, one of you is responsible for making money, but the other person is responsible for making the thing that makes the money. And I think that with Lawrence Stroll, I think whilst everybody complains about Papa Stroll and Lance, let's be realistic. Lawrence is doing what anybody would do for their child. He's trying to give them everything in the world.
Agreed.
Thank you.
I think that he probably went. I can imagine Lance said, Dad, this is what I want. I want a fast car, and I want to be showing people that I am a good driver. And I think Lawrence did exactly what any parent would do.
He said, okay,
I'm going to bring the best to give you the best, to give you the best chance. So I think in doing that, it gives Newey control, because Lawrence knows that Newey is going to, if he can do what he wants, he can design an absolute championship winning car, and he has done it many times before. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that any championship driver that has driven a Newey car has never won a championship after he left.
Well,
so that will be
going to be interesting season.
This space.
Very interesting. So as we come to the end of today's episode, we wanted to talk about one of our favourite things, which is the wonderful community that we have in F1 and how this podcast came about. The number of female fans in Formula One is ever growing, and more so now than ever. And this has created a really beautiful community and a safe space for all of us, especially as women, just to share our thoughts and talk about the races through there's no fear of judgment, and we can really have a nice environment together to discuss these things. On that note, the Old Race Club we have to mention, because that is really what got everybody through the season. Now, did you want to cover a little bit on that?
Oh my goodness. I am going to give here the biggest shout out to my old race club gang. Honestly, you guys are going to make me emotional, but I'm not crying on camera today. I found off season really difficult for me, especially with it being my first year of Formula One. I was so unbelievably invested that once racing ended, like I felt like there was a hole in my life. Like I'd get to Thursday and then remember there was nothing to watch, and then on a Sunday just kind of be like,
Yeah.
so
What
like
do I
this,
do?
like what did I do on a Sunday before Formula One?
Yeah.
Like I had no idea what I did with my Thursday to Sunday. And for me, I found it really difficult. Like I was seeking out like content through like YouTube and Threads and Instagram or what, like whatever I could find, but it's not the raw racing that I've come to love so much. So when I was on Threads one day and one of my now friends and customers said, "Hey, why don't you join Old Race Club?" I was like, what is this sorcery?
What is this?
And basically, literally, but basically, Old Race Club is a group set up by a friend of mine called Rachel, who is also a teacher, and she
Incredible,
set up
incredible
Old
human.
Race. A very incredible human, very funny, very
Wonderful.
caring, a very loving, like the most
Love
beautiful person
her.
you will ever meet. She set up Old Race Club on Discord, and I'll make sure to link that in all of our in all of our comments below for summer season and for off season at the end of this year. But they have a wheel of fortune, and every week after every race, we spin the wheel, and we have races all the way back from the 90s to current day, and it's beautiful because not only do we watch the races together, but we are able to have this beautiful discussion where there isn't any name calling and nobody's called stupid for not knowing anything. Nothing is a stupid question, and every fan is appreciated and loved. Like we can all have our different drivers and be able to have discussions that are open and honest and very to the point without making it personal or mean. And I really have to give a huge shout out to Rachel for even thinking to put something together like that for the fans. Like she doesn't
It's
make
really
any money off
lovely.
this. She does it for free. She
Hmm.
really does do the people's work. So if you need something to do in the off season, please check out Old Race Club. We'd love to have you.
And that's what's so nice about this is that everybody is willing to help. If somebody doesn't know something, it's a safe space. They can
Mm-hmm.
ask the question and they can say, okay, well, actually, I wasn't watching during this time, so I don't know what that means, or you know, just saying things and correcting people in a way that actually it's not an attack because you know, as females in motorsport, like it is, you do get attacked by people on threads or on social media platforms. They'll cut you down and they'll say, "Oh, you don't actually know anything about F1." If you say something, if you type something the wrong way and it comes across differently, you just get attacked, and that is why the female community and however people associate themselves, the community is the safest space, and it is my favorite
Hmm.
thing.
If
And
anybody asks me what DRS means one more time, I promise you I will scream.
I,
I will scream. I will
don't
scream if
even,
somebody
don't
asks me
even.
what DRS means one more time. Like, oh, do you know the tire
Or
compounds? It's
what
like,
what did
please.
what coloured trousers was that driver wearing in 1964? Like, shut up. Do you know
Literally,
what
it's
I
Fighting.
like what
mean?
at what lap, at what time did the red flag come out in Monaco of 1999?
Yeah.
Do you know the answer to that
Do
question,
you
sir?
know?
Can do
Like,
you
Yeah, do
know
you
genuinely,
the
do
know?
answer to
you?
that question? Like, I think it's so lovely that we can have these conversations and be open and honest, but also be like, we can hold ourselves accountable when we don't know
Yeah. And
something.
if we're
We can ask
wrong,
the
then we admit
questions.
that and we
We
say,
admit that we're
actually,
wrong,
thank
and we
you.
can
Like,
have a
thank you for
conversation
pointing it
that's
out.
constructive. Like,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and I think we need more of that in Formula One specifically. And I think there's
absolutely.
definitely like a divide between like the old fans and the new fans. But
Hmm.
Yes.
I think that you have
Retweet.
parts of both communities that aren't great. You've got the old fans
Hmm.
that like to tear down the new fans because they weren't watching when like blooming Formula One came out in the 1950s, or you've got the DTS fans that are like, oh well, you're old and you know nothing, you're just boring and you don't like change.
Hmm.
Whereas you also do have those people that come from like an older background. Someone I know that loves like older races is a girl called Ashley, and she can also give the newer fans more information. And when we share information and we know more, the sport is more enjoyable. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I like to see these conversations where the
Absolutely.
old fans and the new fans can come together, because I know there's a whole lot of things about like the social media aspect that the old fans don't know that the new fans are teaching the old fans. So I think it's nice when we
Mm-hmm.
can see people come
We all
together
work
and
together.
have these
Yeah.
conversations to make not just like having these conversations fun, but to enjoy racing more, because the more we know, the more enjoyable the racing is.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And another thing about the community is when you go to races, everyone is so like the atmosphere is there, but everyone's so welcoming. You know,
Welcoming.
you can make friends. And going to, like, when I went to the F175 event, I went by myself and I spoke to so many people of not just females, of all genders, all ages, young, old, and it was really nice to have that like community of like it doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, we can have a level conversation and we are treated with equal respect. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it's wonderful. And I think that it needs to kind of go on more of a trajectory and improve.
I
But
agree.
things like, I wanted to talk about the friendship bracelet trend where
Mm-hmm.
people they make these bracelets and they trade them, and it's like it's such a nice thing to be able to do that and to have like little things that we take for each other to
Mm-hmm.
races. It's not really in majority of sports, really
No.
in the UK, it's not a thing. It's really not a thing. And
Mm-mm.
and for us to have that, it's just a really it's um it's a sentiment to
Yeah.
us. And I think it's really sweet. But
Yeah. I'd love to
friendships,
chime. I'd love to chime in here,
friendships in
kind of.
there. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
What you're talking about, Lucy, here about, people bringing things to the races. As the American who has a lot of other sports that I'm a participant of, and I've worked in many a sport. I worked in professional baseball, soccer here in the States, and American football. This community is so special and so cool because Formula One is still so small. It's big outside of the US, obviously, but it's still a smaller sport in comparison to a lot of others. And you have a really cool opportunity. And we've had an amazing opportunity to kind of build the community we want to see. And the thing I've really, really have loved is seeing all of these incredible creators create livelihoods for themselves. We
Yeah,
all know that F1 merch is prohibitively expensive. You got hoodies going for $100. You got, specialty merch going for thousands of dollars. And for the casual average fan making average people money, that's not something we can afford unless it's gifted to us or we save for a really long time. And with these guys churning out merch as often as they do, it's
right.
really hard to save, right? Especially if we're trying to go to a race. And let's be real, it's just not easy to save nowadays. So what I've really loved is people like Mel with her pole positions pieces company, creating these different avenues of merch. We have friendship bracelets, something that Mel makes. You have people making art. You have people making, t-shirts. You have people making bags. You have people making, music, even when it comes to Formula One, that is accessible and you're able to be a part of things and you're able to kind of lock in and take a part of the community with you when you walk away from the race. And you're not paying oodles and oodles of money. Sometimes it's given away for free. And I think that is just so special. It's not something you see every day in a community, especially a big sport business community. And I think that's something, probably one of my favorite things about us in particular in this community, is that we all have really embraced this idea of we are a community and we love each other and we're going to take care of each other and we're going to gift each other things and we're going to give each other knowledge, and it comes with no expectation. We truly embody the Burning Man, the Burning Man giving spirit. A friend of mine went to Burning Man and explained that when you go and you bring a gift, you give the gift with no expectation that it's given back or it's even taken. You just hand the gift out, and if someone takes it, you're happy, and if someone doesn't, someone doesn't. And this community really embodies that spirit of, here's a gift for you, and if you want it, I love you, and if you don't, I love you. And so I'm very proud to be part of this community, and I'm very proud to see how well we take care of each other here in Formula One.
Preach.
Absolutely. It's so beautiful.
Preach.
And we should really talk because on the subject of the F1 community, that's really how we all met. So we should
It
really
is.
tell our listeners how the podcast came about and how we met. Because it's without the community and without like the social media aspect of things, we really wouldn't have met each other. So it's a special thing. And
Agreed.
Mel and I knew each other from work, but we would never have really became friends, I guess, if we hadn't have discussed for whatever reason we happened to stumble on Formula One, and we realized very quickly that we had this mutual love and this mutual passion for the sport. So that was obviously how we came about of being friends. But you guys, I mean, that was even more special because that was social media. Tell us the story.
Oh, that's like such a special story. It really, really is. It makes me
It
so
is.
emotional. It was literally like it's like the perfect like movie book story.
It is.
It's
I was
so
on Threads one
wholesome.
day, seeing a thread, and I was like, "We should be besties," and she was like, "Yeah, cool." And literally,
Hmm.
the rest was freaking
You
history. Like I
guys.
remember in our first couple of days of speaking to each other, we were like, "We should start a podcast. This is a great idea."
We did.
We were literally like, "We should start a podcast. This is a great idea." And it was like, so me and Lucy and I are flight attendants, very blessed to be able to travel the world and see these beautiful places. And that's how we met, traveling the world. And we were able to use our job not only for me to be friends with Chris, but for me to bring a friend that I knew from work and bring someone I'd met on social media together, and not only be able to share our love for Formula One, but be able to go to a race. I mean, I was
Yeah,
very blessed, and shout out F1 Vegas. They saw a thread that I posted, and they gave me
we
tickets for
love
the
you guys.
weekend. And
Shout
these
out.
two had tickets. I did not have my ticket, but they gave me tickets for the weekend, and I was able to share something so special, like to be able to say that I got to go to my first Formula One race with two of my closest friends that share the same passions I do.
Oh,
And we met under the most random
the
circumstances
wildest
ever.
circumstances.
Like, you don't really, it's not every, like, me and Lucy probably bonded talking about Formula One, eating our dinner over a trash can stood on our feet at
Right, right.
35,000 feet. Like, that is probably how the conversation
Hmm.
happened. And then I met Chris because I literally seen, I was like, I like her takes. She sounds like my kind of girl. Let's
Let's
be
be
friends. And she
friends.
was like, hell yeah. So for me, it's
And
great to see that the community can bring people together, like not just in person, but through social media. And I've met so many people and made so many friends. Like I've got a friend of mine called Ashley, and she has a little girl, and we call her the tiny Tifosi. And we became friends because at Christmas time she ordered, if I can find a picture I'll put it up, she ordered the tiniest little bracelet. It was like this big for her little girl, and
oh,
it was two Ferrari bracelets, and it was so
Aw.
beautiful to not just see like that I made that friendship, but to see how the younger generations are also getting into Formula
Mhm.
One. And that's a little girl. She on Christmas Day had a full Ferrari race suit and
oh,
her Ferrari bracelets on, and it's beautiful to see not how the community doesn't just transcend like us as adults, but it also impacts those little kids that are enjoying Formula One. I just think
yeah,
I think it's really a beautiful community, and we're really lucky that it's still so small. I
Mhm.
yeah.
think because us as a group, we have shifted over from the Bird app to Threads.
Mhm.
We found a very beautiful community there
It's
that
a
really doesn't
smaller
kind of tolerate a
community.
smaller community that
Mhm.
doesn't really tolerate
No.
Right.
negative. Like one thing about Threads
And
is if
everyone
you're going to
backs
come
each
with
other
negative,
up.
they do.
Mhm.
You come with negative energy, just know that all of Threads is going to come and eat you up, and we will
Mhm.
run you off
Yes.
Threads, and you will go straight back to the Bird app.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
I think that whilst this
Take it
community's
that
been
way.
really small, it's been very positive, and I think it's really beautiful to see how it's been able to create lasting friendships, because I know I have two right here, so I'm very lucky.
Yeah, and honestly,
Yeah.
I'm so like blessed because if I hadn't have yapped about Formula One with Mel, then I would never know Chris. And we've got such a gorgeous friendship between us.
I'm gonna
Like
cry.
I'd never spoken to Chris. I've never
Oh.
stop. I'd never spoken to Chris. I'd never met her. We met in Vegas, and like we did not even had a conversation. And I was like it was like she was my best friend. Like there was no need for an introduction. There was no need for anything. I was like, this girl likes Formula One. I like Formula One. We're friends already. That's fine. And we had such a beautiful time together at the race, and I will cherish that memory for the rest of my life.
I'm incredibly blessed to have these two incredible women in my life for the foreseeable future.
Oh,
As Mel has kind of explained, we met on Threads. I was on Threads looking for friends in Formula One. I had been within the community for a couple of years at this point, and my parents were sick and tired of hearing me yap about Formula One. So my parents do thank you for taking the yapping out of their group chat. But no, I had tried to make friends with a couple other bigger influencers in the community, kind of failed. They weren't really interested in being friends, which, hey, no problem. They're big influencers and they're busy. But I was really hankering and looking for a couple of girls, a couple of friends that would want to talk and would want to kind of be part of my little Formula One community. And the algorithm saw fit to send Mel my way, and the universe saw fit to have us start yapping. And truthfully, Mel, I did not expect our friendship to last. I expected us to yap for a couple of weeks and for it to fizzle out. But I would yap, and you would yap back. And then I would yap, and you would yap back. And I think what really solidified our friendship for me was when we started to float the idea of Vegas. And it went from, okay, maybe we're going to do this, to we're doing this. And you told me,
goodness,
Mel,
yeah.
hey, I've got a friend named Lucy. You'll love her. Are you coming to Vegas? And at that point, I didn't have a flight. I didn't have any plans of coming to Vegas. And I literally bought my flight quite literally 5 minutes later and said, yeah, I'll be in Vegas. And truthfully, Lucy, I was terrified to meet you because Mel had wonderful things to say about you. And I had obviously, as I said earlier, I kind of failed to make friends earlier. So I was so worried to meet you. And then I met you and we just had a
We
glorious
clicked
time.
immediately. We really did.
Immediately clicked. We all got the chance to party together when we were in Vegas, and that's a whole other story maybe we'll talk about one day.
Different day.
These girls really rode for me in that situation, and we just had such an incredible time. And I really do love these girls. So, if you are out there feeling lonely in the Formula One community, just know, start yapping. Because your people are out there.
There's so many people out there that want to find friends that are afraid of that. Just comment on posts and
say hi.
Friends will find you. Yeah,
friends will find you.
Like we reply
Come
all the time.
We are yappers. We're yappers.
Besties.
We will be your nesty besties because we love this sport and we love each other.
Right.
And we love this community.
And that's what we want to do with this podcast. We want to create.
I already told you I'm not crying on this first episode. Pack in, please. I told you.
And that's really what this is about. We want to create the community that was there for us when we needed it, and we want to welcome anybody that's, whether you're a new fan, you started watching yesterday, do you know what I mean? It really doesn't matter, or you started watching way back when in the early 2000s or even longer ago than that. If you have questions, send us a message, send us an email,
please.
Anything. We'll welcome you in with open arms. We want people to feel included and comfortable as much as we have been and as much as we've been welcomed in. So that's really why we decided.
Lucy, on a community, I think, that also gives a lot of great information. There is a group of girls I really do want to shout out that also do some really amazing content and easy listening for new fans, for old fans, and that is the Paddock Girls podcast also.
Yes, check them out.
100%.
On our first episode, I think if there's anybody we need to really give some flowers to, it is the Paddock Girls podcast. I think that
Round
in
of
this
applause.
space. There is plenty of space for all of us. But the Paddock Girls podcast have not only been a great source of information, but they have really been a great support for us getting started in our podcast. I also want to give out a really special shout out to a member of that team, and that is Amy. Amy, you are an amazing,
Amy, we
amazing,
love
amazing
Yes,
you
woman.
so
We
Amy.
love you
much.
so much around these parts. But I want you to, like, if you guys love our content, I know that you are going to love their content too.
Even more,
And
even
we're
more.
all about sharing the love here. It's not about we want to be this and we want to be that, because when we win, everybody wins. And when they win, we win.
Absolutely.
And
Agreed.
I would like to really
We're all
give
here
them
to
a
support
shout
each
out.
other.
Yes, we're all here to support each other. We're all here to learn. So, Paddock Girls podcast, just want to say we love you
We
with
love you
everything we
guys.
have. We're sending all of the love. And yeah, just a little
Go
insert.
check them
I had
out
to send some love to
after
the girls.
We'll drop
Once
we'll
you
drop
subscribe
links.
to us, you go subscribe to them afterwards as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So that's all for today's episode. This one has been particularly long just so that we could introduce ourselves, have a little recap on last season, and just go over. There's been a lot of things to cover, so it's been a special episode of extra bits. But moving forward, we're really just going to have our episodes every week on the race and anything in between. We want to say thank you. Thank you for listening or watching wherever you're seeing this from, and well done for surviving the break, because guys, it's been rough, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been long.
It's been long. I
Too
feel
long.
like this has felt like the longest break, and I've been watching this since I was like this big, so it's been
This
hard.
feels like metamorphosis. I feel like I've been hibernating.
I need my mental
right.
support vroom vroom back immediately.
Right, preach it, facts. So like we actually need to like pat ourselves on the back for getting through this break, because it's been hard. But we will be back next week with an episode covering the OzGP and all of the events from the week. So don't forget to check out our social media channels, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the little notification bell just so you make sure that you're notified every time we have an episode uploaded. If you're on Spotify, obviously click the follow, because that will give you the notifications when we upload new episodes. Thank you once again, and we will see you next week.
See you after the Grand Prix, guys.
Bye.
Bye.